pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Have a roll call, please.
Dr. Seuss?
Here.
Mr. Francisco? Here. Mr. DeCeso?
Here. Ned, you're up. Engineer report.
Okay, the first item is we have the final invoice from PennDOT for safe routes. They did provide a check to the township, and we did get a document from PennDOT that they approved this final payment. So this will close out the safe.
Wait, I'm sorry, did you say PennDOT approved the final payment?
Yes, they approved the final payment in the amount of $111,649.46. Now this money's already been given to the township. We already have it, so we just need to approve it. So Rochelle can issue the check.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Yes.
And then ETC, we met with them and we provided a draft letter by email to the supervisors. You can take a look at it, provide any comments that you have. There's some items in there about restoration of roads that we feel are appropriate, but we just need concurrence from the board. Take a look at that.
You know what, that's probably, I sent them all these letters and now they don't have, they don't even have your extra copy.
It's a pretty long. It's a pretty long letter, but you need to look at the elements of the final couple of paragraphs. We can talk about it if they ask any questions. We can send it out if you just give me some feedback before that.
Since we're on ETC, did you want to say anything about that Ivy Lane or?
That was the letter that Ned is speaking of.
Oh, is that the same one? Okay, I thought maybe that was.
Yes.
So based on our prior discussions with them and prior restrictions that we put on the other pipeline companies, this letter addresses those, and it only addresses their interim stabilization plan. So this isn't a reroute for a pipeline. This is just for them to go in and start to stabilize the area. They have an interim approval to do this work, and this isn't the final scope of work, and this isn't the pipeline application. But they also submitted for their maintenance bond on the roads. We paid some of them roads. We held off and we paid them. Them roads are brand new. So the regular maintenance bond won't cover any damage to that road. So we're asking for an increased bond amount. And Ivy Lane at this point, it seems appropriate that it should be repaid from all this construction.
Have you presented that to them yet?
We discussed it.
Okay.
This is the official letter.
Okay.
Columbia Transmission, the grading permit, they did submit a bond for that work, no action required. So we do have for jet lag, this is the Prax Air located by Beer Valley Mall Boulevard. So they submitted a bond reduction, we reviewed it. This is bond reduction number 4. So this would reduce their bond from $12,958.40 to 0, releasing all of it. And we had a letter dated January 28, 2020 for that. So I would need a motion to approve, reduce their bond in that amount.
So moved.
Second.
Yes.
We also have a bond reduction request for Eagles Landing at Mature Farms. The current bond is in the amount of $713,667.52. We're recommending a reduction to $70,878.87 for our letter dated January 28, 2020. So they just owe us some miscellaneous items. This is performance bond for the second. So we need approval on that.
Motion.
Second.
Yes.
BCA parking lot, they revised their plan, and you are previously approved. The ordinance requires a 15-inch minimum pipe size. However, the 15-inch, they can't get the cover on the pipe. And these are private stormwater facilities anyway. So you granted them a waiver once, but they're resubmitting the plans that are asking for a waiver again. I have no technical objection to the waiver, and we already granted a waiver a long time. So if the board agrees,
So moved.
I'd recommend approval of that.
Second.
Wait, I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Hold on. Thank you.
Yes. Good.
Wagner Road, we did send a letter to the developer as instructed at the last meeting, advising them that the road is to be closed until all of the paving work and every outstanding item is complete. We did a field view on Friday, identified those items. We're going to be closing that road this week with appropriate barricades until all the work is complete. We all further advise them the letter is directed by the board that, you know, the township has not accepted dedication of this at this time. It remains a private road. There will be no winter maintenance or nothing. No items of the like. So
They're gonna barricade the road today?
They said sometime this week, and I did carbon copy Barry on the email so the police were aware.
Well, I just gave them this letter that I got today, I just gave it to them.
But they're gonna let us know when to close it. And they'll close it with the appropriate barricades.
Thank you for addressing that.
Highland Meadows Phase 2 PRD. We have a couple waivers in here. The first is install plastic pipe within road right of way. So the current ordinance requires road crossings, anything in right of way to be concrete. However, you have granted in the past waivers for just concrete pipe underneath the roadway and plastic that runs parallel to underneath the paving. And we haven't had any problems with those waivers thus far. So I would recommend approval. I would recommend approval of that waiver.
For the plastic pipe?
Yes, to use plastic pipe within the right of way, however, not beneath the roadways.
Can I ask you a question? Highland Meadows, is this Lakeview?
No, Highland Meadows is the development on Napa Road.
Oh, okay.
Napa Road.
Okay.
So this is for phase 2.
Okay.
So the waiver they are requesting is in line with the waiver you granted for phase 1.
Okay.
So administratively, you've already granted it, but just for housekeeping matters, it'd be appropriate.
Sorry,
just to-
that's what's next. Second.
Yes. Lakeview Farms Phase 5 PRD. We met with the developer last week, went through all the items. Nick has a drafted developer's agreement and the homeowner association documents. They agreed to satisfy the comments that remain in our letter. I apologize for all these items. So we have a letter dated January 28, 2020. We had a meeting at our office and reviewed all the items with the developer and his consulting engineer. And the items that remain are pretty minor at this point. The conditions that were requested when they got their PRD approval, they've agreed to comply with them, and also they will be in the developer's agreement for signature. So it's in a position where you could approve the plan subject to satisfying the comments in our letter dated January 28, 2020, in compliance with all the conditions of the tentative PRD approval.
Or not do anything till they do them.
Well, he still has to come to planning with the new lot configuration.
We just don't have a really good rapport, in my opinion, with him as far as getting things done, and I don't want to.
Well,
Can I speak?
yeah.
Yes. I'm David Lucci. I'm representing the developer. I do have just a quick plan here, a change. We did meet, as Ned said, about meeting at their office, and we agree with what Ned was saying. We're going to be addressing all the comments with plans this week. But there was one thing that on Len Smith Solar Array's comment letter that I wanted to show and point out. We originally had the mailbox area here for the mailbox cluster unit, but this slope is about 9% slope, and you cannot put ADA space in that location. So we're moving the mailbox area from this location to this area over here. That's the only change that you would physically see out there. All the other items will be addressed. I can answer any questions that you had or concerns.
Yeah, you guys don't always follow through with what you say you're going to do, and I'm not comfortable approving something. The end.
Well, what items are we talking about? And maybe
Anything that we have dealt with the developer, there's just been things that seem to go one way when they're supposed to go straight, and they don't. And I'm not speaking for you guys. You comment what you want, but I'm not comfortable approving anything till you do what Lennon Smith and Solar Ray said you should do.
Okay.
Then you come back and then we'll approve it.
Okay.
Dave, when we spoke, If I understand correctly, you'll have everything addressed by the next meeting.
Yes,
correct?
I will have everything. It'll be this week when I address all your comments.
Okay.
It'll be this
And
week.
we agreed that we would do a quick interim review just to get things cleaned up. So the purpose of that meeting was to get everything on the table that was outstanding with the developer and have them agree and acknowledge that these items need to be completed, which he did. And they've been working to get these items done. And when we discussed it, we talked that the next meeting would be the meeting that you would
Correct.
for approval.
Correct.
You think, I mean, you're comfortable with next meeting, it should be wrapped up then? After
We should be
vote?
done with
Based
planning on
upon-
Thursday with the new subdivision, really. We're going from 70-some lots to 83.
We already received that, the recommendation by the planning commission.
You sure about that?
Yep. That was, February, it was probably January. I think, I don't, you know.
I think, but just as a matter of housekeeping,
My excuse, I had an operation.
I think, I know you were having an
Okay.
operation. I know you weren't there.
But-
Go ahead.
if you'll have everything completed by the next meeting, correct?
Yes, correct.
And at that time,
Comfortable by next
As long
meeting?
as you're comfortable.
As long as, yeah, I mean, if it's done by then, yeah, I'm fine.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Now, our meeting is moved, it's not a Monday, it's a Tuesday because of the holiday.
Oh,
Just for
okay.
a heads up.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's 7 o'clock.
Yep, thank you.
Okay.
Cedar Ridge Estates stormwater pond improvements, the scheduled pre-construction meeting this week with the contractor and weather permitting. And just a couple items to clean up and that work should start. So timeline would be about a week from to get in this stuff, get the road placed in. Then we would cease work. The geotechnical engineer will come and look at the soils and make recommendations. And then he'll come back and he estimates 2 weeks worth of work completed. And then he'll come back in the spring to do the restoration. We're also going to stake the limits out of the property so it does work beyond the limits and disturb any trees or anything on the property. We did get a bond reduction request today, and I apologize, it's not on the agenda. But it was for Beaver Valley Hospitality. This is for the Hilton Garden Inn as well as the Home 2. They were both connected in the same permit. So for the Home 2 hotel, the current bond is $68,883.60. We went out and reviewed the site, all the work has been completed. And we recommend the reduction of that bond from $68,883.60 to zero, contingent upon the developer providing the notice of termination of his permit. We do have correspondence from the Department of Environmental Protection where he just needs to send them 2 photos.
Wait, the developer has to provide notice of,
Provide a copy of his notice of termination for the NPDES permit. So everything is complete except that. And the burden falls on him. Again, it's a housekeeping matter we need to take care of. This money would not be released until that letter is provided to the township.
Mr. Mizrich, in the Lakeview Farms, are we sending the residents a letter that this is beginning?
We do not have a schedule for the work starting.
Okay.
And the developer's agreement, and correct me if I'm wrong, Solicitor York, the developer agreement is drafted. The homeowner association documents were submitted. Now he has to place his bond and a few other items before he even starts work.
Homeowners Association.
They have a homeowner association. They will have one.
Oh, they will have.
They will have one for this particular development. Because one of the conditions, for example, is they have to, they have street lights at the intersections, but all the homes will have post lights. Those post lights have to be on every night.
Okay.
So, and that's something that we're seeing in a lot of communities now. They're not planting street lights and it's a burden to the township.
Mhm.
You actually illuminate the road from the post lights, but it has to be in the homeowner association documents or they may not do it. And there's other items like that.
Okay.
Maintenance of it, and also in those documents, if you recall,
you're Cedar Ridge.
You're speaking of Lakeview.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay.
You were-
I did have a
You asked
question
me about
regarding,
Lakeview.
so my question was
Oh, I'm
Cedar Ridge.
sorry.
That's
I'm
okay. Are we
confused.
Okay, I'm
notifying?
confused.
That's okay.
No,
Let's
I
back
knew,
up.
I
So
knew.
to number
Take a step
10.
back. I went to Lakeview Phase 5. I apologize. Cedar Ridge, once we have the pre-construction meeting, we'll get a schedule from a contractor with dates, and then we can advise the residents that's going to start.
Okay, and then Lakeview, I want to know, are they gonna have streetlights?
Yes, they need street lights and post lights.
So street lights at all the intersections, and another thing that is required that is new, in all developments, they do not put mailboxes in individual homes anymore.
They're all clustered.
They're all clusters, just like you have at a,
Like an apartment complex?
like an apartment complex. So they have a pull-off area for these cluster mailboxes. And again, they have to maintain those. That's part of why it has a homeowner association. So there's items that are there. That's not going to be your responsibility. So they do have street lights, but what I was talking about was all the homes will have a post light in their front yards, and every night all those post lights will be illuminated. That's a condition of the homeowner association. So there's no need to populate it with several street lights and get the complaints and things associated with them. They'll be illuminated with those lights.
Perfect, thank you.
Now, who would make, like, would the homeowner have to maintain that, or?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's hooked up to your electric. Its electric eye comes on. When it gets dark, the pole light comes on.
So it's a
It's hooked up to the,
Yes.
yeah.
But that condition
The
has to
residence
be in the
electric.
homeowner association documents, or people may turn them off.
Right.
And again, as I said, this is, you're seeing this more and more in communities. They're not putting in several streetlights, they're just calling in home lights that illuminate the road. So we were discussing Beaver, the Home 2, which would be a reduction of their bond, subject to them providing us the notice of termination. And again, I've already seen that the correspondence from DEP, everything has been satisfied when we've looked at it.
Okay.
So moved.
Letter.
I think we did that, didn't we?
No. we didn't
Okay,
actually.
second.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, the last item is the Hilton Garden, and two kind of go together, same developer, same project, same permits. They currently have a bond with the township in the amount of $129,382.60. We went out, we reviewed the work, all the work is complete, with the exception of the actual notice of termination for the permit. So I would recommend approval to reduce that bond to 0, again contingent upon them providing us their notice of termination.
Motion. Second.
Yeah.
How much sausage was there last time? That's okay.
And that's all I have unless you have questions for me. Sorry.
You good? Nick, you're up.
You did good. Ned.
Drop bench, we'll have to wait until the
All that money.
other members are available to discuss. The only other item I have here is the agreement that all the taxing bodies signed with regard to the shell tax appeals. In all respects, the agreement is pretty standard for what you'd expect for a settlement. In terms of the actual value, if you recall, the parcels at issue were very low value. They purchased the property for, say, $14 million, or whatever it was, that buffer zone property. Most of the property is in Potter. There are some that's in Center. Ultimately, what the settlement agreement came to is, they wanted it to be very low. Now we came to an agreement as to them. They realized that the court would probably find that the values were much higher. You paid $14 million for it. You can't say it's worth less than that. Ultimately, I looked at essentially the fair market value. Talked to the chairman about this. We were looking at like $30,000 total in terms of market value. The settlement makes the fair market value of our properties ultimately for 19 and 20, $288,000. So the tax, with our real estate tax being a little bit lower, obviously not as much as the school district, it ends up being like $780 or so in tax from that, as opposed to the exact number. For the school district, it's huge for the community in terms of what the value is to them. I'm going to say it's like, let me see, 200-some thousand in tax revenue. Ultimately, it's a fair settlement. Like I said, we don't have as much of a stake in it, but moving forward, if any of that property is used for anything or sold or reassessed, at least we have these values established to make it fair and equitable. So. If you have any questions, I can answer them. With your blessing, I just ask for a motion to approve the agreement. Like I said, all the other taxing bodies signed. I think last time was just an oversight on my part to get that resolved. But
So moved.
Second.
Can we get a copy of that?
Yes.
yeah,
Like I
the
said.
CCO is going to have to sign. This is just a. You can see see on here, they just emailed over a copy where their attorney signed, so everyone has.
No, I mean, when it's all done, I
Yes.
get a copy.
Just needs the language.
Yeah. That's really about it on my end. So.
Okay. Old business, anyone got anything? Committee reports?
I do have one. Mother-son bowling is scheduled for March 14th at Center Lanes, and the sign-up dates will be February 15th and February 22nd from 10 to 12. No date for T-ball yet if someone calls.
Somebody
Oh,
called
we got a call today.
I've gotten several myself. Yeah, nothing for T-ball scheduled yet, and if anyone calls for father-daughter, it's the 12th.
I paid that.
I saw that, thank you.
On the contract.
Okay.
But I always like you to see it before I
Yeah,
know.
thank you.
So the bowling is March 14th.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes.
Chief, you got anything? Nothing. Frank?
I have it for Ned. I just talked to Chris Ham for the Suburban, the engineer.
Okay.
He's gonna give me a time schedule, when he's gonna close out everything for the bond. I told him to send it to you.
Good.
Okay. New business, authorized payment of DAC invoice for
I got the $1,500, it's an ongoing invoice from that bond we did every year. We get that, it's a $1,500, $15 professional services rendered for the document repository for client filings, cover sheet, it was on that doc every year.
Second.
Yes. ESRI renewal.
Ned, you know about that, don't you?
Yeah, Esri is basically the engine behind Tracer that runs it. And it's directly with them.
So moved.
Second. Yes. Nothing further? Nick, do we have anything?
Yeah, there is one.
Executive.
There is one item just briefly to discuss with regard to strategy in connection with litigation for a property owner that needs to discuss with you.
We won't be returning.
Yeah, I don't need to vote on it.
Nothing further, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We will be going into executive session, we won't be returning, it's for litigation. Thanks.